Hi everyone, Oxy here. Today we're going to be taking a look at all the Yoru tech and interactions that you need to know if you want to play him. First things first, one of the most important techniques that you have to understand how to use is how to curve your teleport orb around walls. Whenever you throw your orb into a wall, if you throw it into the wall at an angle, instead of stopping, the orb will continue to slide along the wall, and then once it hits the corner, it's going to pop off and keep going in the original direction. This means that you can control where the orb goes by changing the angle that you throw the orb at the wall. This technique allows you to get some really deep teleports without any line of sight by bouncing the orb off several different walls and corners to get it way behind enemy lines. People are already discovering lots of lineups to get all the way into enemy spawn from midpoints on the map that you would not be able to do with any other character, but you don't even really need lineups to make this work. Now if you're having trouble following where the orb is, the next tip I have for you is that you want to use your minimap to track the teleport orb. There's a little icon that's going to show you where the teleport orb is at all times, so you can use that to know if your orb has arrived where you want it to, if it's in a hot zone, or if it's all the way back in the enemy spawn and hopefully a little bit safer for you to teleport to. Something else that's really important to know is that you can also use this wall bending trick to get your decoys to bend around walls. This is the exact same principle as the teleport orb, although you have to be careful that the angle is not too steep, otherwise the decoy is going to fizzle against the wall. So it's a little bit harder to make it slide along the wall, but the decoys will also do it just like the teleporter. This is really important to know because it makes the decoys sound way more real. As more and more people get used to having Yoru in their matches, they're going to start getting more suspicious of footsteps that go in a straight line, especially if they know that Yoru is in the area. So, by using this technique, you can make it sound like your decoy footsteps are walking through the map and taking various turns and going into different areas instead of just walking in a normal straight line. Yeah, I'm ready.
I need to learn them.
God, that's terrifying. It sounds exactly...
I don't like that.
Oh, this is so big brain. This makes the decoys much more convincing and scary because it sounds way more like an actual person. Now on the subject of decoy sound, the decoy sound is actually very slightly different than the real sound of Yoru walking. When you're listening to the footsteps, you want to listen for the sound of cloth. You can hear the rustling of Yoru's clothes when he's walking if it's the real Yoru, and the decoy, I guess because it's not a real person, doesn't have the same rustling cloth sound. Now this is a really small difference, and chances are you're not going to be able to notice it in a real match, unless you're in a lurk situation where it's very quiet around you and there's no other audio to pay attention to. Maybe then you'd be able to pick out the difference, but it is something to keep in mind, just in case you find yourself in those scenarios. It's also important to note that friendly Yoru decoys have a specific crunchy sound onto the footsteps.
Decoy.
This is mainly to let yourself and your teammates know that those footsteps are from a friendly decoy and they should not worry that that's an enemy suddenly flanking them. Enemies will not hear this weird crunchy sound, so if you're new to Yoru and you're using your decoy and you think that doesn't sound like an actual person, that's why. The enemies don't actually hear that, they hear something much more convincing. One of the strongest uses of your decoys is to use it to burn intel utility. So this is stuff like Cypher Trips, if they're placed low enough for the decoy to trigger. Killjoy's Nanobot, Killjoy's Turret, and Raze's Boombot all will trigger on your decoys. So it's a really good way to just clear out that utility before going in. Even if the enemy knows it's the decoy, knows it's there, if you trigger that utility and get it out of the way, that's a really good use of your decoy. You should also keep in mind that decoys will make sound cues on Cypher cages and stage slows.
Decoy.
So those are also good ways to fake pushes through that utility. Also, weirdly enough, Yoru's teleport interacts in the same way with Sage's slow, so it'll get slowed while it's passing over the slow and it'll make that footstep noise.
Time to jump. Cage triggered.
Now going back to the subject of the teleport, just like Omen, if you're going to be making fast, aggressive teleports, you're going to want to use your flash to cover those teleports. So this means that once you throw your teleport orb in, you're going to want to throw your flash in after it, and then teleport just after the flash pops, so that if any enemies are looking at where you're going to exit, they'll be blinded and you can get a quick free kill. Now unlike Omen, Yoru's flash and his TP both have much longer range than either Omen's flash or his TP, so you can get much more creative with this and go for much more long range plays. Also, while we're on the subject of the flash, it's important to know that the first part of the flash is invisible to enemies. Yeah, once it bounces you can see it. That's crazy.
But you can't see it yeah. That is kind of nuts.
So enemies can't see the flash until it bounces, but there is a faint sound when it's thrown. It's really quiet, but it is there. Okay, you can hear it being thrown. Like it traveling. But it's really subtle. Once it bounces, the flash will always fly a certain distance before exploding. And I like to think of this as you're throwing a ball that once it hits any surface will pop a Phoenix flash from that surface. Because they're about the same time once it hits the wall and bounces. And you can still do the same like corner flashes too, just off the ground.
Yeah.
Through smokes, especially really good.
One final thing to keep in mind with both the teleport and the decoy is that they both can be destroyed by enemy damage. It seems that the decoys are immune to gun damage, but they both can be damaged by ability damage. Now it's not going to be instant like a Cypher Tripwire, they have a little health bar, but they can be destroyed with enough ability damage placed down. Now probably the most important thing we're going to talk about here is the ult. When you pop your ult, you want to primarily use this for info and then for positioning.
I'll handle this.
Right, clear. Backside clear. Use that default.
I'm back.
This is a really powerful ult because you can go straight into sight and you can ping all the enemy's exact location for your team. This also makes it an amazing counter to Viper's ult because you can walk straight into her ult with no trouble, you're not getting damaged, she can't hurt you, and you can just ping her location out and your team can spray her down from outside the Viper ult from complete safety. Going on the Viper ult.
I'll handle this.
On ping,
One
back
enemy
corner.
remaining.
On top of this, the radius for being detected when you're in Yoru ult is actually slightly smaller than the radius for vision in Viper's ult.
One enemy remaining.
So you can actually see Viper a little bit before she can see you when you're in your ultimate, if you're in her ultimate. This also means that Yoru is just a very strong counter to smokes when he's in his ultimate, because he can freely walk through them, clear the smoke for his team, and then walk out the other side, clear the other side for his team safely, and ping out where the enemies are looking and holding. Yoru's ult will also counter any form of reveal, so this means even active recon bolts from Cypher or Sova, if they've been stuck to Yoru, as soon as he enters his ult, he'll be immune to them. Even though it says you're still being revealed, they won't see a thing until you come out of your ult. Now, reactive stuff that's based on vision, so this would be Killjoy's turret, her nanobot, and the boombot, will all trigger if they see you, so if they get inside that detection radius, but they still can't hurt you. So this also means that his ult is a pretty good way to burn utility at the choke, just like a jet dash. If there's a nanobot at the choke and they're playing for contact off that, you can trigger that safely, get on through with no trouble, and it doesn't matter if they try to swing you because you're invincible. One thing that will affect you while you're in your ult is flashbangs. All flashbangs will affect you with the exception of Omen's flash because it has to actually hit you and you're invincible. Now there is a weird sweet spot where you can still see flashes going off, but you won't be blinded. This is sort of at the edge of the radius of your vision in the ult. I think that in general, flashes are a bit of a soft counter to Yoru ult because they are really good at denying him the vision that he's trying to get while he's in the ult. And Reyna's flashes especially are a really good soft counter because Yoru can't shoot it while he's in the ult to get rid of it. If he looks at it, he'll be blinded and he won't be able to get the vision. And then Reyna's team is also completely unaffected by her flash, so they still have their vision and can watch the site. Now, as far as exiting your ult, there's actually a very important animation cancel that you must know if you're going to be using Yoru's ult. The way you do this is you're going to pre-place a teleport orb, either safely in your lines or just throw it forward. And then you go in and you ult. And when you're ready to end the ult, you're going to press the button to teleport, and then immediately after press the ult button to exit the ult. And if you do this right, you're going to exit the ult at the exact same time as you also teleport to your orb. So you can use this as sort of a makeshift Omen ult, where you can actually move around and get vision just like you would in an Omen ult. And then at the end, if you don't want to stay in there, you can immediately teleport yourself back out as you exit the ult. Now this is going to be a little bit more expensive than an Omen ult because you're using your ult and your signature ability in order to do this. But that's sort of the trade-off you get, I think, for being able to move around. Now last, but probably most important, is that it's very crucial that you understand that the only known counter to the game right now, to Yoru's ult, is Skye. Specifically Skye's ult. Even if you're already in your ultimate shroud, as soon as she pops this ult, if you're near enough to be selected, the Seekers will find you no matter what. No matter how invisible you are, they'll go straight for you. And when they connect, they'll also blind you just like they would normally. So this is very dangerous for Yoru because he can't shoot the Seekers while he's in his ult because he can't shoot his gun at all. So he's actually even more helpless and vulnerable to the Seekers. And this pretty much means that if there's a Skye on the enemy team and she has her ult up, you should probably consider very carefully if you want to use your ult. Because if she's alive and she has her ult, that is a very hard counter to your ult. Because she can find out exactly where you are, she'll blind you so you can't get the intel that you need with your ult, and then you'll probably be out of position and vulnerable when you come out of your ult. On top of this, Skye's Wolf, if it connects with him, will also reveal Yoru in his ult. Obviously, you can't hurt him still because he's still in his ult, but it will reveal him. And if all that wasn't enough, Skye still has 3 flashes that she can use to deny Yoru vision and intel if he's pushing her site while he's in his ultimate. So as you can probably tell, Skye is a really big Yoru counter, so if you're ever in a match against Skye, you're going to have to think very carefully about how you want to play with his ult, because she can very quickly ruin your day. So that's going to do it for all the tips I have for starting out on Yoru. I hope you guys enjoyed. If this guide was helpful, definitely let me know down in the comments. I'm curious if you guys are enjoying Yoru so far. I think he's pretty fun to play, although I think he's probably mid-tier at best. I don't see him being too meta-defining or too strong. There's a lot of counters to him, but I think in the hands of a really aggressive, creative player, he can probably make some really flashing, interesting plays. So let me know what you guys think. Once again, my name is Oxy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.